Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's the Leeds United 2, Hull City 0 post-match instant match reaction. I'm Stephen Brown, alongside me is Jason Booker. Leeds fans, get your comments in, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Jason, a 2-0 win, first home win of the season. Lovely to get off the mark in that way. Windows shut now. That is all done. It's just performances on the pitch that count. Your general overview, kind of just a few minutes after full time.
It's nice to be back talking about football instead of talking about transfers and who's coming in and who's coming out and all the rest of it. Yeah, frantically refreshing social media constantly. So yeah, it's nice to just watch football. There was bits that I didn't like about the performance in the game. There were a lot to also like, especially second half. I think as soon as we scored the goal, I was comfortable and confident that we'd go on to win the game. For the large parts, we controlled them, kept them at arm's length. They had, I'd say, a 10 or 15 minute spell in the first half where I felt like we got a bit sloppy. Melier, slack pass, couple of defensive issues that I didn't like. You know, the chance that they created on the back of the foul on Rodon was just ridiculous. I mean, again, officials, I'll go there as often as I get the opportunity to because they're horrendous. But yeah, there were a little bit not to like in that first half, and there were a few performances from individuals that I didn't like as well. But that aside, I thought overall we controlled the game. There were a lot to like from the new boys. I thought Solomon showed his qualities. I thought the assist in particular was something that we don't really ever see from Nonto or previously from Somerville, in that he takes it down the other side and whips it in near post. And previously we didn't have that striker that would get across the near post. And one thing that we've seen from Joseph in pre-season predominantly was the fact that he would do that. He'd run across that front post, and it was a great goal. And then the introduction of the other boys as well. You know, I know it was only 5 minutes for Tanaka, but you just see how much quality he's got. He looks like a real player. I'm so excited. I was buzzing. He's actually the one that I'm most excited about throughout the whole of the window. Really, really excited to see him play. Constantly scanning over his shoulders, and he's just got a reading of the game, and his decision making is really good. And I thought Ramazani was nice as well when he came on. Real nice touches, flicks around the corner, was confident, was technically very, very good. And he works hard, worked really, really hard. And then lastly, to kind of give you my finalization of my brief thoughts, if you like, is I thought Brendan Aronson was fabulous. I thought it was just everywhere. He must be an absolute nightmare to pick up for defensive midfielders, defenders. He's just on them all the time. He's pressing and his work rate. But technically, he's actually really, really good. You got to remember now, he's up against championship players. It were easy for us to praise Rutter and Somerville for looking great against these players, and then just completely dismiss and forget Brendan Aronson because we saw him struggle at Premier League level. It's a £25 million footballer that's played European football, is a full international that's now playing in the Championship. He's elite at this level. He's not elite in perspective of world football, but at this level, he's at the very, very top. And he just dictated stuff. Going forward today, he was everything good about Leeds. So, yeah, I'm buzzing for him. I'm just really, really happy for him as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Ryan getting his comments in earlier. I said the same after the Sheffield Wednesday game. The passing and distribution has been too sloppy. Better teams will punish us. I mean, from my point of view, it kind of started off kind of as a lot of these games of this season, actually, where we've kind of been on the front foot. We kind of create these kind of half chances. And then we kind of lose control of the game. I think when we don't get that kind of early goal, there was a long period, you mentioned it obviously in the first half, where for me, it was too chaotic. It was okay. There's losing control. There's back and forth between, the team that you're playing and yourself. But for me, there was a bit of desperation at points where it was like, Melier's giving hospital passes. There's a bit of confusion. Hull had a lot of space. I actually thought, though, Leeds weren't really doing anything wrong at the start. I felt that Hull just handled our press. I thought they were knocking it about confidently. A couple of times we'd nick it in positions and win a throw-in or something like that, but we weren't, nicking the ball that high up the pitch. Obviously, we forced a couple of corners, but I thought Hull were really competently dealing with our press. And And obviously it was a different type of game to the Sheffield Wednesday game. You know, the Hull were a different proposition for me compared to Sheffield Wednesday. And I just felt there was a period of the game where it did get away from us. I'm kind of struggling to kind of crystallize my thoughts on this because I thought we were very good in patches, and then also these kind of moments where it kind of got away from us a little bit. I always felt the game was in balance. I always felt that there was a risk they would catch us on the break. Was it Bedia up front for them? I think
it was a handful, wasn't it?
Oh my God, our central defence knocking them off the ball. He was physically imposing. He was causing us some issues. It was a bit of a struggle for Struijk and Rodon to handle him at times. But I would say overall, a lot of positives. From it. I think we're going to pick apart some of the kind of individual performances. Obviously, new boy Solomon got the start. You called it straight away. I think probably a lot of people thought it'll be slowly introduced and everything like that. But bang, he was straight in him for me. I thought he was absolutely superb, Solomon. I thought he was really good. The goal is fantastic, the way he sets that up. And, it was nice to see a cross and a front post run from Joseph off the mark. I think we'll probably see a lot of games like this at the Championship where it's going to be a case of can Leeds get that breakthrough a little bit earlier? Can we put teams to the sword a little bit sooner? We still look in terms of individual talent miles above, our opponents generally, as we were last week. But it's difficult. It's the Championship. Right. 2 games in it. It's you're not going to dominate, are you, completely?
Look, the facts are you kind of hit the nail on the head with there. Oh, we've got echo. Stopped. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, we're not just going to dominate and blow away every single team that we play every single week. That's just not the way that football works. And you've got 2 teams that are trying to win a game. And today we came up against a winger that's caused us problems before in Liam Miller, and he causes problems again. He wasn't, he wasn't a star stud or anything. I still think he was outshone by our boys in them kind of positions, but he caused us a couple of problems in a weak area of our pitch defensively, I would say, with Bogle. I still think Bogle and Rodon are learning how to play together. Thought Rodon had a shaky game today. But the facts are is that they still kept a clean sheet. They still kept him at arm's length for most of the game. Meslier had 1 save to make, which came on the back of the terrible refereeing decision, not from a defensive mistake. I can't blame Rodon for that. It was a ridiculous call. That aside, there were a couple of our chances. Miller, I think, skimmed the crossbar, one that went over in that kind of mad 10-15 minutes. But like I say, we're not just going to dominate every single game, every single week. And Hull are going to be in and around the edges of the playoffs. I know they've not had a great start to the season, but technically they've got some nice players in that team. So I think we are a little bit arrogant at times as a fan base that we think we should just be able to turn up. These are going to roll over and we win 4-0. And it looks like the Norwich playoff semi-final, second leg, every game. That's just not realistic. Like, today was really comfortable. I know you said that you were worried about an equaliser. I thought the second that we scored, we were completely in control of the game. Before that, there were moments which I didn't like. We gave the ball away a little bit too much at times. We didn't move it as quickly as I'd liked against Sheffield Wednesday. We were giving the ball away from time to time, but that's because we were attempting to move the ball through the lines quickly. I don't think we did enough of that today. Not having Dan James on that right was a little bit of that, because it means that we can't transition quite as quickly. But there was still a lot to like. And yeah, you're absolutely spot on in the individual quality. We're head and shoulders above Hull. I mean, they're looking at Louis Coyle, who's playing another season as their captain, as one of their better players. I thought Begia, I think his name, I thought he was a handful all game, real player. But then you look at the quality throughout that team, they're not a patch on us, Browney. They're not. So that quality should most of the time tell.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what's done it as well, isn't it? Just to get through some of your comments here, Nige, great win, Farker now has 2 weeks to work with the majority of the squad and the newcomers. Jason, On 92 minutes, they found a man in our box, completely unmarked, but fortunately he fluffed his lines. And for this level, we bought some really good talent. Once they bed in, they'll be cooking. Really happy for Piroe to get his goal. Ryan Rodon has looked like half the player he was from last season. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Now, let's get to kind of individual players and the setup. Obviously, we've mentioned him there. The kind of man on show there was Solomon, who's come in. And I mean, he looked kind of every inch classy. I think, you were texting quite early on and impressed with him. And I thought, he looked hungry to me. He looked really, really hungry. You can see, because obviously it's not worked for him at Spurs. He's had this injury record. He is 27. He's not, he's not a spring chicken in terms of 20, 21 or anything like that. He's kind of ready to go. For me, he just looked on that level. And I know Hull physically tried to bully him. Coyle got in his face. They were basically trying to, kick him and bring him down. But, he in the end, it's his quality that opens up the game for us. And something different to what Somerville was. And perhaps a little less greedy, I would say, than Somerville at times.
More mature. He's just more mature.
Yeah. I was very impressed with Solomon. Close to being man of the match, I think. But what did you make of him generally?
I echo everything that you've just said. I thought from minute one, you could just see his quality. Making right decisions, the way that he moves his body really well in little jerk motions to open up space and send defenders the wrong way. Not scared of going on his weaker side. I mean, like I say, I don't think we see that ball in last season. I just don't think we see it from Somerville, Nonto, whoever, Dan James. None of them do that, where they drive to the byline on their wrong foot and play it to the near post. The quality that he showed jinking in the box for the chance that ended up falling to Brendan Aronson. Brendan Aronson should have done a bit better. Solomon created that pretty much on his own. There were the moment where he let the ball run through to Firpo. Somerville wouldn't have done that. You're talking about the greedy kind of element of Somerville's game. And there is an element to say that actually can benefit a team at time. I'm all for that. But what Solomon decided to do was he wasn't in the best position to strike that first time because there were bodies in his way. He let it roll through to Firpo. Firpo didn't make the best of the chance, but that's not the point. You're creating the moment. You're creating the opportunity. I thought it was excellent. I've just seen Jason's comment pop up there about losing some pace. I don't think he was ever particularly rapid because he's small and his little legs move really, really quickly. I think it can look like he was probably quicker than what he was. I think you might be right that he's lost a yard, but also he's probably not up to full match fitness yet. He's fit, but he's not fully ready match fit, intensive competitive game week in, week out. I thought you could just see the quality, mate. And I mean, some fans on social media were talking about him like you were going to be Jadon Anthony. And I've seen other content creators talking about it as if he were going to be like the bit part that came on and played 10, 15 minutes. This guy's not elite level, but he's top level. There's a reason Spurs stuck him on a 5-year contract. He's a real player, and he has no place being in the Championship. And luckily, because of what's happened last season, we've got him. It won't be anywhere. If he's fully fit and plays 40 games this season, he'll be nowhere near Championship football next season. I'm buzzing with him, mate.
Indeed. I know we've got a few viewers on X, so if you're watching along on X, please do us a favour, get us retweeted, get a comment in as well. We'd really appreciate that. Elsewhere, top end of the pitch, Joseph off the mat. He's got that first goal. Brilliant run across the box as well. Great finish. I mean, how long have we been crying out for that Jace? I mean, we've been desperate for it for years. In terms of Joseph's game overall, I know there were a couple moments first half where he kind of lost the ball. Are we seeing a little bit of a trend with Joseph where it's kind of his first half and second half? Is he kind of, because of his age, having to grow into these games? I mean, I thought it was excellent, especially second half.
I just think he's trying too hard. I think there's times where he's done the hard work. He's backed himself into the defender. He's held the ball up, and then he tries to take 5-6 touches to open up a bit of space instead of just dropping it back off into a midfielder. Like sometimes you can do the other, but sometimes you just need to do the easy thing, and that's what's frustrated me with him. He's run the ball into the corner, and he's managed to win. Get there ahead of the defender, or whatever, and then he's got an easy pass back to a Firpo or a Bogle, and he'll try and overcomplicate, and it's like, but some of that's, youthful inexperience and exuberance, and some of it's, maturity and building into the role. But that run across the front post it's what we've been missing for years. Desperately been needing that, the killer instinct to get there to the ball ahead of the defender and, score them easy goals. That part, and Piroe doesn't do that because Piroe's not got the movement and the pace to get ahead of that. That's not what he's good at. So yeah, we've been desperate for years and years, and Chris Wood and Ross McCormack probably are the last two that I can think of that would do that. And that was how long ago was that? Yeah. Rodrigo in little spells here or there, maybe he saw that from him, but again, that weren't his game, was it? So yeah, lovely to see. And I thought second half he really grew into the game, and I think that first goal, you saw the relief for him. When he was coming off the pitch, coaches were celebrating with him. It was a big moment for him, a big moment for the team. I think the team, the coaches are clearly believing in him. He's the man. He is the man this season. He's going to play there regardless, I think. Other than injury, I don't see him being dropped. So right behind him, at times a bit frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed, and it's that thing, unfortunately for Bamford, some of the slagging off that Bamford gets, I think it's over the top, to be fair. And I think it crosses a line where it's just pure kind of abuse, really. It's just like, there's just no need for it. And for me, Bamford was decent last year, but he's clearly at the end of his kind of Leeds United run. That's clearly what it looks like. And Joseph is going to be afforded more mistakes, more missed chances, more losing possession, which, you've highlighted before as well there, where if it was a Bamford doing that kind of thing, it'd be, frowned upon.
And rightly so, by the way. We have had 6-7 years of Bamford and the frustration. Yeah. I'm not saying that I don't get on board with some of the frustrations towards him as a player. Sometimes some of the things that he does, his injury record, but the agenda towards Bamford existed when he wasn't getting injured. It existed back under Bielsa in the Championship when he scored 16 goals in the Championship. It even existed in the Premier League when he scored 19. Yeah. So it's just, for some reason, some players just attract that kind of attention for some reason. And he's just one of them. And I've always really appreciated what he's done. And every time he's been out with the team over the last 3-4 years, we've missed him.
Yeah.
But we don't miss him now, because we do have a genuine replacement that can replicate a lot of what he's great at. He doesn't do it as well as Bamford. I'm still not having it that he runs the channels, holds the ball up, presses better than Bamford. He doesn't right now. But what he does do is he offers us better, more of a goal threat for a start, which is the most important thing. He runs off the shoulders better. And he is capable of doing all that other stuff well enough that gets him, by.
He's changed his profile a bit, hasn't he, Joseph? Because I thought it was like an Nketiah type, where it's like a poacher type striker, where they don't physically kind of impose themselves. And clearly it looks like Farke or someone have said, look, if you're going to play, if you're going to get into the first team, you can't just be a one-note striker. You can't just be a poacher. You've got to do more than that. So fair play to him. And for me, this will be an interesting one. I'm interested to know what the chat think as well. The disappointment for me today in the kind of front end of the pitch was Willie Nonto. Now, good news kicked off the day. Willie has signed a contract extension to 2028. Fantastic news. Apparently no release clause. Whether you believe that or not, I don't know. But
it's not go there,
right? So, Willie extension, obviously. So it's good news there. And look, he's going to be around for a bit longer. I thought I was frustrated with him today. I was very, very frustrated with Willie. Offsides. Greediness at times, hanging on to that ball too long, decision making. I was a little bit frustrated with Nonto today. I thought what we talked about, the maturity in Solomon's game, was completely missing from Nonto today. I think I do agree with Ryan here where he says about the fluidity between the front four. Look, Nonto is always going to be technically good and capable of doing things, but he needs to do a lot better for me, Nonto, and I'm sure he will, but I was underwhelmed by Nonto severely today.
I mean, first off, let's just say fair play to the redemption arc of Willie Nonto from the 12 months ago and reintegrating into the team to now signing a contract and being the last one left out of all the diamonds, if you like. Who'd have thought that he'd have ended up being the
Unbelievable.
last one out of Krieg, Gray, and Jorginho Rutter? It's mental how things work in football at times. And I'm happy he signed a new contract. He deserves it too, because he will have still been on basic youngster terms, because when we signed him, we didn't sign him for the first team. So he'd have still been on a relatively poor contract. I believe he'd probably have been on one of the lowest in the whole squad. So I think that's, fair, deserved. I think with Nonto at times, it's going to take him time to learn a bit of a new role in this system. It was an out-and-out winger last year, hug the touchline, take it down that, the byline and cross balls in, try and get into the box. Now he's going to be asked to do the role of Rutter last season, interchanging amongst the other two as well, because it feels very fluid, as the comment just said then. And I think that's going to take him a little bit of time to learn and understand. He's finding himself in centre midfield sometimes, which is not his wheelhouse usually. He's not really a 10 in that, guys. I think he can play off the striker very naturally. So maybe as a second striker, shadow striker in and around the number 9, but not as a creative kind of spark in the centre of the pitch. It's going to take him time. He's going to make loads of mistakes. I didn't think he was great. I agree with exactly what you're saying today, but he was buzzing around. He was always involved. He was always trying to get in and around other players with Brendan and Solomon and the midfield. And I think some of what he was probably dealing with today came from Gruev and Ampadu not being great either. When the midfield two behind you are not pinging the balls into you in the way that you need them to then look great going forward, you're not going to look great going forward. So I hear you, but I don't think he was fully on his own for that. Being a reason to the.
Well, I mean, probably the big disappointment from the transfer window for a lot of Leeds fans is a lack of number 10 signed. Obviously, we've got this massive Pablo Hernandez shaped hole, and it's kind of the reference that everyone makes.
Yeah.
I look at it and I'm looking at Nonto and Aronson, and I'm thinking you've kind of got this maybe this hybrid kind of wing 10 kind of fluid kind of thing. And I'm kind of wondering, actually, long term, this might actually be better than having just Rutter.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering because, you've got two players there, more experienced, different attributes. And I just wonder if actually long term for this season, that's actually going to benefit us more. Do you still look at that team today and go, oh, no, number 10? Or are you kind of looking at it and going, actually, we've got enough to fill that hole with those two players in particular?
I think it's more suited than it was last season.
Yeah.
I would argue, and I'm going to duck when I say this, but Brendan's a better 10 than Rutter. He's a more natural 10 than Rutter. I love Rutter, and I wish he was still part of this squad, but he was shoehorned into the 10 position because we didn't have one. Bear in mind, it started the season as a 9, and Piroe was the 10. We realised very quickly that didn't work, and thankfully Daniel Farke changed it and played the more creative player in Rutter there. But Rutter's a wide man. Rutter won't play 10 for Brighton. He's going to play on the right wing because that's his position. I think there's a fair chance he'd have ended up playing right wing this season if he'd have stayed at Leeds. I mentioned it to you in pre-season. So I think the number 10 position will be between Aronson, Nonto and Piroe. And then you're going to see Ramazani, James and Solomon occupy the wing positions. I think that's very much how it's going to be. And thankfully, they are very fluid because I think Solomon can do a role in there, when they start crossing. So I actually think it feels more natural the way that it started today's game as opposed to last season. I know I'm just going to take this opportunity to say, I know a lot of fans are finding it hard to buy that this team, the squad, is better than last year. And I still stand by it. I still think it is. It feels more complete. If Solomon's fully fit, I would argue that he could be actually better right now than Somerville. Somerville won't go and start games for Spurs. And I know Solomon only started minimal games for Spurs. I get it. But that injury aside, that's the level of player that he is. Ramazani, we don't really know how good he is yet, but he is probably going to be more naturally suited to playing on the right than Nonto is. And Nonto then is going to play on the left. So you actually a build. And now we've got, Tanaka's better than Kamara. I'm telling you, wait until you see him play week in, week out. And he's going to be so much more suited to a Daniel Farke system because Kamara dictates the play from deep. Whereas Farke's system needs a player that drives the game forward in that position alongside a defensive midfielder. So I'm really excited by the squad. Really excited by the squad. And I look at the bench today, and the bench is so strong. Verber has stayed, which I was doubtful that had happened. We've got an out-and-out international defender that can't even start bloody games for Leeds in the Championship. He's riding bench, waiting for an opportunity, probably with Pascal more than Rodon because of the left foot, right foot situation. And then you've got Schmidt coming in. Like,
not bad, is it?
It's made. The squad is stacked. It's absolutely stacked.
Well, it's like this kind of sums it up. I do feel like we have our eggs in more baskets this year, and I kind of get that phrase. It is what it feels like because, do you know when in that Portsmouth game, and you saw Rutter picking the ball up deep and trying to take 3 players on. I've got to admit, I love Rutter. Didn't want him to leave. I would probably have preferred us to sell Nonto over Rutter. But I didn't like it when I saw that in that opening game, Jason. I really didn't like to see that tactic again. I just thought, oh, God, it's like last year on repeat. And when it works, brilliant. But if it doesn't, it's a problem. And I feel like from kind of the Sheffield Wednesday game, we've got this kind of more complete attacking performance. Like you say, I think it's much better balance.
We can go different ways, can't we?
Yeah.
Like when we're building up, it doesn't just feel like we're forcing it to Solomon or we're forcing it down the other side. It feels balanced, like we can go either way. And then if neither side's down the width is working, because we do like to go down the width a lot, we ping it into Brendan Aronson, and Aronson will make an interchange with Bogle or Nonto or Solomon or whoever that is running off him. I'm really happy with the football, and Tanaka's going to help with that so much as well, because Tanaka's capable in confined spaces of picking up the balls in midfield, whereas I feel like Ampadu and Gruev don't really do that.
We'll get on to that. I'll just read, John, thanks for your comment, mate. Great result this week in clean sheet, and we now have got a more complete squad. Yeah, I mean, Jace, let's talk the midfield pair who at Sheffield Wednesday were dominant, and I think, we'd all agree they kind of ran the show. They were such a solid base. Today didn't quite feel like it worked. Gruev's an interesting one. I kind of get a bit frustrated watching Gruev. I've got to say, I get a bit frustrated. This kind of turning back slows it down when you have players bombing forward, and he does the slightly negative pass. And there were a couple of times actually when I mentioned this to you before we started streaming that there was a couple of times in the second half where he actually pinged the ball forward. He drove into space a little bit and pinged the ball forward. I was like, yes, that's what we need. Do more of that, please. And Ampadu was a little bit quiet. I mean, there was a time when both of them went in for a tackle, and Ampadu got a knock. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, have we got like 2 players too similar in this space of the pitch? It wasn't their best day. I mean, with Tanaka coming in, are we looking at that and going, look, one of them, more likely Gruev, because Ampadu's your captain, obviously, you're not going to drop him. But are you looking at that going, Gruev, you're probably not going to be starting once Tanaka gets up to speed and gets that. I mean, if Tanaka comes in and he sets off like a house on fire, it's going to be difficult for Gruev to maintain that situation. And I think that's what this team needs a little bit. It doesn't need, it doesn't need slowing down constantly. And I think Gruev is that type of player. And look, I appreciate what he does. And, if Rodon gets an injury, we know we can drop Ampadu back in as the right-footed centre-back. Gruev can come in, and hopefully we can still complement him with Tanaka. I mean, do you see how that's going to unfold? I mean, what did you make of their performances today?
Yeah, 100%. That's how I see it. I see it being Tanaka and Ampadu. I like Gruev. I like Gruev a lot, actually. I think there's a lot to like about him, but technically he's very slow in turning on the ball. He's slow in general in the way that he runs. He reads the play really well. He's a very good breaker of play. That's what he's more that's his best quality. I just think it's very simple that it's Ampadu or Gruev, and then Tanaka or Rothwell. Like, I don't like the Gruev and Purdue combination. I know it worked really well against Sheffield Wednesday. Gruev was better. He was driving between the lines, but it's not natural for him. You can tell that he wants to be further back. He wants to be reading the game, mopping the play up and keeping it simple. He's not about spraying balls and knocking balls around the corner. It's just not his game. He's so heavily one-footed as well. He's so left-footed, it's untrue. He cannot pass the ball with his right foot. So he's then always angling his body in a certain way to try and get it onto his left foot. I didn't like the performance at all from them two today, really. I thought defensively they were caught ball watching at times. I thought they just slowed it down too often rather than, like we've just been saying, pinging it through the lines. I cannot for the life of me picture a world in which Gruev and Ampadu is the starting centre midfield pair in 2 or 3, 4 weeks time, or 4 or 5 game weeks time or whatever.
We will get to this comment. Guys, if you're watching along, please do get your comments in, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching along on X as well, please get us a comment in and get us retweeted and liked and all that good stuff. Follow the channel as well if you're not already. Mark, thank you for your comment. Hold on. We've beaten 2 poor sides. Lack of creation. Still nothing to get carried away with. Oh, Mark, not happy with that today?
I mean, Mark's fair to have an opinion on it, but what I will say is that I would say 18,
poor side, are they?
18 20 of the teams that we're going to play are like that, or worse. Sheffield Wednesday, most people predicted would be in the top 6 before the season started. It's easy to now say that they've lost to Sunderland, us, and against Millwall today, that they're now crap. But 3 weeks ago, people were putting them in the top 6. So you can only beat what's in front of you, and we dominated really both games. And not only that, but I mean, lack of creation. First half weren't great, but second half we were creating chances, no problem. Sheffield Wednesday, we created tons of chances. We could have scored 4 or 5. And on the opening day of the season, it weren't creating chances that were the problem with the other end of the pitch. And it seems as if we've now sorted that out with back-to-back clean sheets. So, 3 clean sheets in a row. 3 clean sheets in a row. So, yeah, I think you're talking waffle, if I'm honest, because I creating chances has not been a problem. It's just not been a problem at all this season. I don't think. And not only that, but we've been more clinical with the chances that we're creating, whereas previously we've actually been quite wasteful. So yeah, I don't agree with that at all. It's going to take time for it to be completely and utterly fluid. But when you can see what they're trying to do, you can see where the chances are going to create. I mean, I would say in the first 10 minutes today, we had 4 or 5 openings where the ball would play to a fullback and all it needed were a good cutback. Firpo had a couple, and then Bogle had an absolutely massive one. What's he doing? He plays it straight into the side net and just square it.
Like, what are you doing, Bogle? Come on.
Max just said West Brom. West Brom are an all right side defensively, very, very resolute. I don't think we can take anything from the West Brom game. It was in an isolated situation on the back of an awful week for Leeds, 3 days after getting spanked by Middlesbrough. I think Daniel Farke just went, right, look, we're going to draw the line, back to basics. We're keeping a clean sheet here today, and we're going to build from there. And you know what? I hated that performance, but it was the right thing to do in hindsight. He got it spot on.
Well, look, I mean, the thing is as well, let's hope it's a normal championship season as well, where it's not this relentless, you have to win every frigging game to keep up to pace with the top 2. Let's hope it's a normal championship season where actually you can go away to West Brom, get a 0-0 draw. It's a good result. It's not 2 points dropped. It's like, oh no, that's against a good team away from home. 0-0 is a good result. That's what I'm hoping for this season, that we've got a bit of normality, and hopefully if we can get 90 points again or thereabouts, hopefully that'll be enough this year. But we'll wait and see. Gail's asked here, what was Bogle doing or thinking? Do you know what? I just kind of wasn't really focused on Bogle. I think what I do love about Bogle is he's kind of got this like intensity when he's going forward, like bombing on. He's that kind of player. He bombs into space and he bombs on with the ball, all this kind of thing. Defensively, though, obviously question marks. I mean, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought, against Sheffield Wednesday, I thought he had a really, really good game going forward. Defensively, got caught out in the first 10 minutes, but Apart from that, I thought defensively it was all right. And then, I mean, bear in mind, Liam Miller at this level is a difficult winger to deal with. He's a tricky, awkward winger. Caused Archie Gray all sorts of issues last season. It's a problem. And I thought overall, he dealt with him okay. There were a couple where Miller stood him up and he defended it out for a corner. I don't think he got caught out too much today. He's just a right-back version of Firpo. They're very, very similar in the way that their body positions, the way that they stand defenders up, the way that they jockey. Excuse me, Sheffield Wednesday fans, they warned us that defensively weren't great. So, yeah, I not too worried. I'm interested to see what Schmidt can offer, though. I think it's going to be a real competition. From what we're hearing, it'll be Schmidt or Bogle or Byram or Firpo on the other side. That's good. Schmidt's not going to play left back, even though he predominantly has played left back over the last few seasons. He's a right-footed left back, which is a strange one. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great competition. But I quite like him, if I'm honest with you, Brown.
Yeah.
Last season, we really missed an overlapping fullback. Really missed it, and I loved Archie, but he weren't that. And now we have that. He finds himself in them positions. I just wish he'd get his head up and square the ball back a little bit more often. I'm just going to finish off with Mark.
Yeah, let's go back. So Mark's replied here, WBA all right side. How many times are they around? Jason talks rubbish.
Well, what are you talking about? How many times are they around playoffs? Well, more seasons they're around the playoffs. They literally were in the playoffs last season. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. And they are for me the kind of team that if you are going to get automatic promotion, you need to finish above because they're going to be in them playoff spots as they were last season. So yeah, going to the Hawthorns and getting a point isn't horrendous. The performance on the day was terrible, but I think it served a purpose, and we've now seen on the back of it two pretty comfortable 2-0 wins. So
I think he's rephrased it here. West Brom are an all right side. They are always around playoffs.
Yeah, they are an all right side. You're answering your own statement. Yes, they are an all right side. They are always around the playoffs because they're an all right side.
Yeah.
Brownie, am I speaking? Have I been picking up Tanaka's Japanese or what? I don't know.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I think Mark. I think let's just chill out. Let's keep it above board here. Come on. Yeah. So in terms of league position now, obviously it's that first kind of win at home. It's second win of the season. We're up to fourth, 8 points. Sunderland, a great start for them. Obviously West Brom, a good start for them as well. It paints a nicer picture of the league now, doesn't it? Going into a bit of a break, going forward there.
Yeah, shame that there's an international break, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, in comparison to last season, which obviously is your yardstick when you finish on 90 points, you look back at this time last season, we all said if only we did better in that first month of the season. Well, we have done better in the first month of the season. It's not been perfect. We've had some road bumps to kind of get over. As Gail says there, if only Harrison took that chance, we'd be sitting pretty, wouldn't we, on 10 out of 12? And we'd be looking at that West Brom point and be thinking, that's a really good point. So, yeah.
I think, Mark, I'm going to put you in a timeout, mate, because there's just no need for calling people that kind of stuff. This is just a chat about the game after. Let's just keep it okay.
I didn't see what he said there, but I don't care. I'm thick-skinned anyway. Yeah, the facts are that.
Yeah,
sorry, go on.
No, go on, mate.
West Brom, solid side, and bar a crazy game on the opening day of the season. If Aronson then scores that, regardless, we're sitting pretty really, aren't we?
Yeah.
This time last season we had Preston that won 6 straight at the beginning of the season. They ended up finishing, I think it was 14th or 15th. I'm not saying that'll be exactly the same for Sunderland, but Sunderland. They've not really got the squad to probably compete full season with Burnley, Sheffield United and Leeds. So I would imagine that a good season for them would be finishing in the playoffs. I think their expectation would probably be in and around 6th to 10th, if I'm honest. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see them end up there. They've got a new manager. things can sometimes go well in the early days and then eventually drop off. They lost Jack Clark. They've also lost Aqua yesterday to a loan to the French league, who was arguably their second best player. They did make some shrewd moves though in the window themselves. So it'll be interesting to see. There's usually one in there that comes out. I think it'll be Middlesbrough. I think Middlesbrough will be the one that really push out of the Burnley, Sheffield United, Leeds, and probably, I still picture that Luton will be in and around it, but who knows after the start they've had. So yeah, there's going to be teams that cause troubles, but I'm not overly concerned right now with what I've then seen from us. I think we'll be fine, mate. I think we'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think after this kind of last couple of weeks, it feels as if a bit of normality resumed. I mean, obviously there was even question marks about Farke a lot there, but you got to hand it to Farke, haven't you? Because he's kind of steadied the ship, hasn't he? And it's not an easy job, is the Leeds job. It's a really tough job. The demands are through the roof, the expectations through the roof, and to be honest, I've been critical of Farke. Certainly in private WhatsApp groups and everything, definitely. But I've always enjoyed how Farke comes across in his interviews, his press conferences, every kind of public kind of thing that he puts forward. I've always liked it. I know sometimes it sounds like he's making excuses for stuff, but he's a manager. He's got to defend himself. I would love to see it happen for him this season. It certainly feels like we're in a really, really good, strong position, and especially when you've got players like Tanaka to really come to the fore, and Ramazani as well. We got a glimpse of both those guys today, but I'm sure they're going to play a huge impact. One thing just to mention as well about the game, Joe Piroe as well, Joe Piroe, I mean, it's probably the signing during the 49ers era where you look at it going and you're scratching your head and we were warned it wouldn't really work. It doesn't feel like it's really worked. Although his goal scoring record last year was fine. But something just hasn't quite clicked. We've watched time and time again where he's been a complete ghost in games. But, he comes on today and he finishes supremely. I mean, what a calm, cool finish. I mean, could this be his role this season, Jason, where he kind of, comes off the bench second half, and just ties up games? Is that how to get the best from this guy, do we think? Is this what his role is going to be? Because I don't see him starting. I don't think he's right to start.
It's just not quick enough, is he? Like in the system, the way that the interchange and he can't press. The thing is, if that chance that he had today, if I had to pick anybody from the Leeds squad to be dropped into that position and say, go on, put that ball past the keeper and into the back of the net, I would pick Joe Piroe. Bear in mind, that finish there, comfortable on his weak foot. That's his weak foot. And you wouldn't know because he just looks so naturally gifted on both sides when it comes to him putting the ball in the back of the net. He's a sublime finisher, but he doesn't suit the system. We don't give him enough of them opportunities to be able to score 2 or 3 of them. He don't. Some games he'll go through and he'll have one long range effort from 25 yards out, and that's it. Because the system, because of the way that he plays and the system together, he just then never ends up resulting in getting chances. So yeah, it's a disappointing one. I think he'll end up leaving at the end of the season, regardless of what division we're in, and we'll end up saying, do you remember when we had Joe Piroe? What a player he was before he came to Leeds. And I won't be surprised, even if he plays a big part this season, that he scores 10 goals. Because he's a predatory goal scorer. When you said, "Oh God, they're bringing Piroe in the group chat," my first thought was, we're going to get opportunities on the counter, and I won't be surprised if he scores. I was thinking exactly that. And Firpo, by the way, the build up to the second goal was beautiful, brilliant build up. Firpo's cross, I mean, he was excellent today, Firpo as well, by the way. But the second it got to Piroe, I thought, 2-0. I knew we were going to score. I knew he was going to score.
What's hard about it as well, Jason, is obviously there was rumours that we tried to get rid of him in a swap deal for Gus Hamer. He will know himself. He'll look at his time at Leeds and he's going to look at it and go, it's been tricky because I'm not starting week in, week out. He'll be aware of kind of the fans' perception of him. So to be able to come on and actually coolly kind of score that goal still. I mean,
Yeah.
that takes a strong mentality, because we've had other players that would just completely crumble in that situation.
Patrick Bamford's one of them.
It goes from bad to worse to worse to worse, whereas Piroe is still kind of got the mindset where he can come on and do something like that, despite probably, and I wouldn't have been surprised if there were a lot of groans in the stadium when he came on.
Yeah. He's a killer, mate. He's a killer in front of goal. He is, and he is so cool. Like I said, I wouldn't want anybody else on a penalty. If he was on the pitch, I would want him to take it. I'm starting to come around to the idea that I didn't believe in the Piroe swap deal after speaking to Nancy the other night and thinking about the whole logistics of the situation. Because you would have sounded the club out to see if that was even a possibility before offering that. It doesn't work like that. It's not Football Manager where you just put the offer in and see what they say. You know what I mean? There's conversation. But maybe that did happen in terms of there was a conversation and the Sheffield United side were like, nah, we won't be interested in that. To which then they've then leaked it to the Sheffield Star. Maybe that's how it went. I don't know. But, well, going off today, again, he got the minutes that he's probably always promised in, Joe Piroe. He came on and he did the business. That's all you can ask for. And I think that will be the part that he plays, mate, because unless there's injuries, I just can't see how he gets in.
No, I can't. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I just want to bring up, because we've got some post-match comments. I'm just going to bring this up from Adam Pope. It's quite interesting and gives us a glimpse into what Farke's thoughts on the transfer window were. So he's been talking to Adam Pope. Farke pleased with the transfer window, but recognises it would have been preferable to have brought in a pure number 10. I need to work with other tools. I'm excited to do that. I'm not an accountant. I have to get the best out of what I've got. So there's a bit to unpack there. I mean, the reference to I'm not an accountant, so that clearly there were figures banded about what Leeds were happy to pay for a player. Obviously, the Gus Hamer thing, they weren't happy to pay the 18 million or whatever. And I know fans can look at it and go, well, why don't you just do it for the sake of getting that quality? Why don't you do it? But the other side of that is Leeds will have their valuation and won't want to overpay.
Is it worth 18 million, Browney?
Well,
if he was, why aren't a Premier League team snapped him up? Because he had a good season last season and he went to the Premier League last season for 13 million. So I like Gus Hamer a lot. I was so excited. I mean, I was more excited to get him because of peeing off Wilder. I just thought it'd been hilarious. But there's some logic to say, no, we're not paying you 18 million for him. We don't know if he's that level to warrant paying 18 million. So I get it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what I would say, though, is I would like to see in January, if it's kind of thereabouts, that we put us foot on the gas and we do business in January. I hope we've got that space to do it rather than what happened last year where we didn't really do anything and it kind of, well, I mean, I know we went on an absolutely brilliant run actually after January, but ultimately maybe because we didn't have anything properly different at the end of the season, it might cost us. Hopefully there's enough space that if we need to do something in January, we can do it.
I just to kind of finish on the 10 thing.
Yeah,
he doesn't have an excuse. I'm not giving Danny because all squads have gaps.
No.
They all have.
Yeah, absolutely.
They do, and we are now more naturally covered in that position than we were last season. Because I would say Brendan Aronson's a more natural 10 than Jorginho Rutter is. Even though Jorginho Rutter's a better player, Aronson's very comfortable in that position. I think Solomon can be very comfortable in that position. I think Piroe obviously is an unbelievable third choice. Now, if we get to January and it's still evidently a problem, then sure, we need to have made sure that in the 2, 3, 4 weeks leading up to January, we've got a number 10 ready to go and he's in through the door in the first week. Not a Connor Roberts situation where we're desperate for a right back and we'll wait until 30th of January. Yeah, because that was a problem in itself. We didn't even have time to gear up a right back properly last season. So, yeah, I hear that, but I'm not giving Daniel Farke the kind of length of rope to use it as an excuse because he's still got an abundance of talent in and around that area of the pitch.
Any other manager in Championship will be happy managing that team, wouldn't they?
Unbelievable.
I mean, if Farke lost his job, there will be so many managers out there applying for that role. Let's get into some comments here because there's quite a few interesting ones here. So, Gear here. Let's not get too excited, guys. Hull has one win in their last 15 games. We had 5 shots on goal, but the new players look good. I think the Japanese kid can be a bargain. What I would say is, though, I thought Hull looked decent. The way Hull handled our press, I thought they looked decent. I thought they had a threat, and you can look at form and everything, but just looking at that whole side today, I thought they were bang up for it. I thought they, like I say, handled the press and looked dangerous at times, and I think we've done well to get out and just win that game pretty comfortably in the end.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think, again, you can look at things one of two ways. Bear in mind, in that 15-game spell, they've got a new manager. And they were also undefeated. I know it was 3 draws, but they were still undefeated. They're not a bad side, and they've got some good players in that team. They've got some good players that have been there a number of years now as well. They've lost Jacob Greaves, and I think he's going to be a massive miss for them. I mean, he was arguably the best centre-back in the division last season, along with, Rode and Ampadu and a couple of the Leicester boys. He was excellent, and obviously he's got to move to the Premier League with Ipswich. But throughout the team, the little Turkish lad, I forget his name now, he was really, really tricky, and I really liked the striker. I thought he was a really good player in himself. Yeah, real handful. So I think they'll be up and around the top 10. I don't know whether they'll have enough to get playoffs, but they'll be up and around it. So yeah, I think that's a bit harsh. I hear you, and I think it's fair to be on the side of caution, but you can't just be like, oh, well, it's only all the crap, because most of the teams are of that kind of level. You take Burnley out, and I even go and look at Burnley's team today, Browney, right? And the guys in the chat, go look at their team today. They're weak. Yeah. They're really weak. They had Hannibal and Jadon Anthony. They had
Connor Roberts.
They've got Connor Roberts, the starting right back, who wouldn't probably get in this team. I won't swap our team with any of them.
No.
So he's absolutely on the players and the manager now to get this right, because the team is so strong.
Yeah, and when you look at like Solomon today, you're just like, come on, let's just get this done. Yeah. John Piroe needs to keep his head down and scoring goals. If he outlives Farke, he could be a top scorer for us. Jason, I think we'll spend if needed in January. Michael, Piroe's situation is similar to Rodrigo. Initially, Bielsa played him as a number 10. He was played out of position and had trouble adjusting to the Leeds system. He eventually adapted by adjusting his style. Yeah, could be.
I can feel that.
Yeah, Gail, I'm factoring and will be for this season. Looking at it here, Jason wasn't his number 10 at Norwich. Buendia, who came in off the right side. Yeah, this is the thing. I don't feel too concerned about the number 10 thing. It would have been nice, but I mean, Farke said in his press conference, full-back, central midfielder was the key. And if there was an opportunity to get an attacker, they would do that.
Browney, filling the role of Tanaka, the number 8, was massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
That was the one, wasn't it?
That was absolutely the one, because the depth in the centre midfield were a real problem. Real problem. And I like Rothwell, but it's clear that he's not to the standard that he's going to be playing week in, week out for a team that finishes in the top 2. And so I am absolutely more than comfortable with the squad that we've got, that we should be able to win enough points this season to finish in the top 2. There is, like I said, there's just no excuse. I've just brought up the Burnley team on my phone. They started today with Josh Laurent in centre midfield, who they've just signed from Stoke. I mean, Leeds fans would have gone nuts if we'd have signed Josh Laurent. He's such a basic average Championship midfielder. Josh Brownhill alongside him, which I do quite like him. I think if he were named exotically, he'd be a lot more attractive within English fans. I think he's a good player. But they had Joe Worrell at centre back. I mean, could that be any more Championship? Jadon Anthony on the left started a day after they signed him. That's how desperate they were for players. Yeah. Hannibal, he's not great. He's not great. Connor Roberts, they've kept James Trafford, who I don't think is a great keeper. I'm very, very comfortable with our squad. Look at the start that Luton have had.
Look at the points that Sheffield United have already thrown away. I mean, again, their team doesn't look as strong as what it did. Nowhere near. I think we're head and shoulders, Browney. I really do. Like, I think the squad quality. Gavin's there. Put Solomon's a cheat code. He is. A Tanaka, I think, is a cheat code. I think Joseph has got the potential to be. I'd argue Nonto. I'd even argue the likes of Dan James. His effectiveness at this level just gets totally overlooked. And then you look at the qualities of Pascal Struijk, Joe Rodon. They get into any team in the division. Any team. Last season we had to contend with Leicester. You made the point about the league not being as crazy this season, hopefully. Leicester had a very, very strong team last season. And bar their major blip, they ended up winning the league fairly comfortably, really, like they should have done. We had the turbulation going on at the back end of August last year and whatnot. We don't have any of that now. I've seen Gales just put their just out goalkeeper week. That is the area of the pitch that is of most concern to me. But again, he shouldn't have much to do because the team are just going to be dominating games so much. So
yeah, it's kind of been forgotten about, hasn't it? That little problem position, I think, with everything else going on.
He made a save today, Browney.
He did.
Let's just just leave it at that. Like he actually saved a shot that was at his goal, so I'm okay today.
Gavin, Rodon being poor first 4 games. Verba, it's that left. I don't think we'll have Struijk and Warber together because of the left footedness. No, you never know. I can't see.
I am interested to see what happens with Verba. I've got to say, because I have been very scathing in my kind of overall assessment of Struijk. I don't like some of what he did. He did something today, and I just thought that's what he just switches off his concentration.
I don't like it. Sorry to interrupt, but I don't like it when a ball's coming over and him and the striker are trying to jostle.
You see him wrestling.
I feel a bit like, he
wrestled the striker to the floor today, and he should have been a foul. And the referee, he was very lucky. There's just something about Pascal sometimes where, like, you watch him and defensively he looks great, and then he'll just switch off. Yeah. And it's like he's just had this kind of brain fart where he's just disappeared. And he does worry me at times, but I have seen a lot to like with him as well in the early part of this season. I think Verba's got a lot of repairing to do. It doesn't feel the same with him and Aronson. Aronson has really come in and showed the attitude, whereas I think Verba's body language at times doesn't help him. But right now, if Pascal and Rodon stay fit, I just don't see him playing ever. I just don't see him getting in. So then what happens is surely January comes and he leaves. Yeah. It's bizarre, isn't it?
There's a new chant for Tanaka. Shall we have a listen?
Yeah, wow. I've seen people laughing at it. Go on, put it on.
I hope it's all right. We'll see. Right, let's have a look. Right, let's see. Has that come through? Okay. Please be appropriate. There we go.
Wow.
It's going to be if he comes in and does what we think he'll do, I think he's going to be a fan's favourite very quickly.
From a marketing perspective as well, he's massive. Apparently, his wife is a big Japanese pop star.
Oh, really?
She's got 1 million Instagram followers, and he's got a massive Instagram following. And I mean, he's a good-looking Japanese lad. It opens up avenues that other players just can't, and other clubs can't. And Leeds together with that connection is pretty big business. And he's a very, very good footballer. He's a very, very good footballer. I can't wait to see him playing week in, week out. Honestly, we haven't had a player like him in forever. If I'm honest, I can't think of a player really off the top of my head that replicates what he's going to bring. I'd have to do a little bit, maybe Clicky, but I think he's a little. I think Tanaka's better at the defensive work than Clicky was. But kind of more.
Maybe that's the kind of closest one. Just want to bring up this point from Gavin. We need to go out and beat teams with this quality front seven, etc. Farkas stifling us with Ampadu and Gruev. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to kind of, let's thump some teams. Let's really, let's get it going. I'm sure it will. I'm sure that will come.
It's the balance in it again, because the control allows us to dictate games in a certain way. If you I'm going to say this again, and I've said this a number of times on streams over probably the last year or so. That's the Bielsa widow talking. We are so obsessed and addicted to that football that we got to enjoy for 3 years that we just see everything else as boring and shit. Like, I'm just going to say, that's what it goes through my mind sometimes. I'm watching a game and I'm thinking, that's a bit boring. But it's just because we enjoyed watching that so much because it was blood and thunder. But without the Bielsa 3 years, we'd be looking at this thinking, this is amazing. We take it for granted a little bit, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, good stuff. Before we head off then, Jason, any final thoughts, anything you want to add before we go?
No, I'm happy. I'm disappointed that it's an international break because we love league football, don't we? We love Leeds football. I seen Gio getting absolute pelters on social earlier.
I saw that. Oh, he missed a chance, didn't he?
Did he miss a chance? I've not seen it, but I've seen him getting absolute dog's abuse, which just it made me smile because at least it's not just Leeds fans that can be moronic at times.
Yeah.
Like give him a chance. He's played 18 minutes today, and he played 6 minutes the other day. Like relax. But it just shows you, doesn't it? And one thing I will say, and you made this kind of point, the grass ain't always greener when it comes to playing time. But also don't do it to yourself in enjoying seeing them struggle. You should be supporting them all because they all gave, a lot to Leeds United last season, and ultimately they would still be if we'd have got promoted. We didn't, and now they've gone on to the Premier League.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, I'm kind of excited to see how they're going to get on. Spawn players Archie Gray. I'm excited to see how they get on, but I think there is something there, about that grass not being greener, and if you've played 40 odd games last season and suddenly you're on the bench. I mean, Somerville got subbed in the League Cup the other night. And won. And football's funny, isn't it? Football, these players that you think are dead certs, when they go up to that level, that Premier League level, you just never know. You just never know. And I hope they all do well. I really hope they all do well, because that's going to help us ultimately, because players will look at Leeds and go, they might view us as a stepping stone, certainly in the near future. And obviously you want those success stories. But it's just interesting. It's just interesting. And look, we've had former players who swanned off, left Leeds, and it didn't work. I'm looking at Becchio, looking at players like that and now they try and kind of come back and, Leeds, years later, because they realise if you get it right at Leeds, it's another level of appreciation and love, do you know what I mean, from the Leeds fans. So it will be interesting. I hope they do well, but I think it'll be interesting.
I think to kind of, box off the transfer window as well, I would implore fans to not look at it as we've not replaced the players with players that are as good or better than what we've lost. Because that was never going to happen. All these players that we're talking about have gone off to the Premier League for 25 million, 40 million, 40 million for Rutter and Gray. You're not going to replace them with ready-made players that are better or as good as them players. But what we have done is we've bought really shrewd with real potential, and they're all exciting transfers.
Absolutely. I do want, I'm so sorry, mate. I'm just going to bring up, because there's a very interesting further Farker comment, and I will bring this up on screen in a moment, where he's basically saying that the club decided not to spend a massive amount on a further player coming in. So let me just grab this on screen for you guys.
I mean, we're obviously just going to extend a little bit by the sound of it now, Brownie, which is fine. I'd just be interested to know what Gavin means by that comment. I'll put it up while you're just finding that. Minus 116 million net spend this summer, guys. Astute. So, the transfers that we've made in terms of incomings have been very, very astute. We've spent money extremely well. Now, I'm not an accountant, as Daniel Farker's come out and said today. But what I do know is that the PSA PSR situation is in that we we are kind of kneecapped by what we can and can't spend. The transfers over the last 3 or 4 years worth of spending, because we've not had any return on the investments. Rasmus Christensen, Brendan Aronson, Rocker, Diego Llorente. I could go on and on and on and on. These signings have kind of put us in a position where we're hamstrung in what we can and can't spend if we want to do it within the rules. Now, let's just say that we should do it within the rules, right? Because, you know, some fans are saying, well, balls to the rules. Look at Leicester. They got promoted anyway and all the rest of it. And I get that argument, but it's not valid if we want to do things right. I do not want to subscribe to a belief that we should just spend whatever we want. I've seen bad mismanagement from club owners that have put us in perilous positions before. Why would we want to go down that route again? I fully believe that the 49ers get nothing out of Leeds United with us in the Championship. They need us in the Premier League to be able to sell the club on for the profits that they want. The shareholders and the people attached, the investors in Leeds United, don't get what they need in terms of a return investment out of selling Jorginho Rutter for 40 million quid. They do not. I promise you they don't. It goes on paper against the PSR valuation, and the amortization works itself out to make sure that we're conforming within the rules. So get rid of this notion that they're skimming off the top like Ken Bates did, because that's not it. It's definitely not it. I'm not saying that I'm sat here just, pampering to everything that the 49ers have done. I think they've got a lot wrong as well. And we've made that, and with Browney made it crystal clear over previous streams recently with some of the stuff. But ultimately, this window, given the fact that we stayed in the Championship, we missed out on promotion, and we had players with release clauses that had attraction from the Premier League, we've done well. This window's not been perfect, but it's been a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It's been an above average window because the players that we've recruited at Championship level are going to make us better, make us more balanced, and they've got huge resale potential attached to the players that we've signed. So, yeah I'll stop my little monologue. I just thought it was an interesting
I think
point.
you're spot on, because I think, you look at like an FSG and how they run Liverpool, and they've just come up with an incredibly savvy deal to get Chiesa in, for example. And all the Liverpool fans are screaming out for a defensive midfielder, and they're not just going to do that. It's value for money. It's the best deals they can get for the price, everything like that.
Yeah, 100%. And that's how recruitment should be. You're talking about a business. We're not Todd Bowley's Chelsea where they're just throwing money all over the place. And I get this point. It's just a simple math, but a lot of people on social media, a lot of Leeds fans are making this point based on simple maths. You can't make it on simple maths, because it's not simple maths. Like, I get ins and outs, and I understand how that works. But in terms of actually where that money then goes on paper towards paying off previous bad transfers, which some of them, the 49ers, will have been a part of. I can hear that. I totally agree with that. This release clause situation, they will have had some part in that. Archie Gray's, I get all that. But in terms of some of the mistakes from the past, as Daniel Farker likes to talk about it, some of that we're having to now deal with, and that's in the case of selling a player for 40 million and his replacement being 10. But if the recruitment is good, like a Tanaka, like a Schmidt, 2.5 million for Schmidt, it's just mind-boggling. Some people would have had us go out and spend 12 million for Max Aarons just because he's played in the Championship.
Yeah,
like, that's not good recruitment. That's lazy recruitment.
No, exactly. Great comment here from Gear as well. Actually, I forgot about this. We're still paying for the Augustin deal. Nobody's thinking about that. Well, I mean, that was 20 odd million or something that we had to pay for nothing, and that all has to be factored into these financial decisions. Now, with that, Farker's comments then to Adam Pope. So to land a number 10 with goals and assists, Farker says, then you have to spend an unbelievable amount of money. And during the summer, the club have decided not to do this. That's absolutely fine. So we work with what we've got. So it's one of those kind of comments where it's like, he's kind of laying it on the line there. Look, he knows it would have cost an obscene amount of money to get that. He's happy to work with what he's got. And it'll be interesting. I mean, like, I agree with you, Jason. I don't think he's got any extra. I think if he turns around and we don't get promoted and says, it's because I didn't get a number 10, I couldn't quite get exactly what I wanted. No manager gets exactly what they wanted. you know. So
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I've made that point. I agree completely. I do think that it doesn't have to. I think you turn up the level of risk attached to the recruitment. So there will be number 10s out there that all cost 2.5, 5 million quid, whatever. But the risk of them potentially being good enough at this level to do what we need them to do is going up. The less you spend, the more the risk goes up, and it's a pivotal position in the team. So I hear that on one hand and disagree with it in another. I think, you know, the likes of him were always going to be a really difficult deal to do, but he would have significantly improved us. I made the point about Cantwell yesterday on the deadline day stream. Some Leeds fans would have just said, I'll just go by Cantwell. Yeah, but when does he play? Because he'd have been fourth choice number 10. So it's about getting it right. It's not about just getting anybody. So yeah, fair point from Farker. But yeah, I'm just kind of sitting on the fence with that one.
Yeah, no, indeed. Well, thank you everyone who's commented, got involved with the discussion today, whether it was on Twitter or X, or YouTube. If you don't already, please like the videos, subscribe to the channel. Myself and Jason, we will be back hopefully for pretty much every Leeds game this season going forward with our post-match reviews. We've got our Monday show as well that'll be coming up. That's a roundtable discussion with all the boys. We're also hoping to have an interview with Jamie Rayner for the BBC as well, our very own Gareth Walker. Hopefully he'll be getting that one sorted out. So lots to look forward to on the channel. I've been Stephen Brown, alongside me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much, mate.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Thank you, everybody.
And we will see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.